and welcome to the Analyst of Vajiram and Ravi. Today is the first day of April, and through this discussion, you will learn good details about current affair topics that are covered in the Hindu and Indian Express. So, in our first topic, we will understand and explore why India needs a Green Revolution 2.0. In the second article, we will understand and explore the importance and challenges faced by Arctic research and governance. Then in the third article, we will go back to history to study Vaikom Satyagraha as it has recently covered and finished its 100th year. Then we will read what are the GI tags, and then we will read about the highest civilian honor that is accorded to the Indians. This is the Bharat Ratna. And also, as the prelims examination is approaching, so therefore we have introduced a new segment known as Prelims Snippet, where we will be doing quick revision of important current affair articles that are extremely important for the upcoming prelims examination. So let's get started. Our first article is coming up with a concerning context. The context is that government has recently reported that they have got record low wheat stocks in the government godowns, lowest in 7 years. And this has exacerbated the need for an agricultural revolution, a transformation from Green Revolution 1.0 to 2.0. So therefore, we'll be exploring what is this Green Revolution. But before that, first of all, let's talk about what is Green Revolution in India. So Green Revolution is basically characterized by a period which caused drastic agricultural transformation in Indian landscape. This happened from 1960s to 1970s. It was led by M.S. Swaminathan, so he is known as the father of Green Revolution. And in this period, India saw massive and exponential rise in its agricultural yield. Why? Because it was characterized by the following things. First of all, it promoted the use of high-yielding variety seeds. Then it called for using modern technologies in order to enhance agricultural productivity. And then it also called for enhancing the use of fertilizers and irrigation. So increased and exacerbated use of both these two elements were also incorporated into Green Revolution. Was this a success? Not really, because it had huge inequity when its success was realized. In fact, it had huge implications. If you talk about each and every characteristic, the HIV seeds led to monoculture in India. What is monoculture? Extensive cropping of a single crop. The Green Revolution 1.0 was heavily concentrated and biased towards two crops, the wheat and the rice. So all of the farmers, because they were incentivized to do so, starting performing monoculture. Is it good for the biodiversity? No. So it also compromised with the agri-biodiversity, the genetic pool that the country had. Then use of modern technology, it was a good step. But do all the farmers in India have got equal access to finances and equal amount of money to invest in modern technology? No. And the lands are also rather fragmented. So therefore, not everybody took use of these modern technologies. What happened actually, it enhanced the inequity among the farmers. The rich farmers who can afford these technologies got more richer, and the poor ones, the marginal ones, got more poorer. So it exacerbated the inequity. Next, the increased use of fertilizers and irrigation, as you all know, has got huge implication in terms of environment. So it caused soil pollution, overall land degradation, soil friability, rendering many of the soil unfertile for longest of term. And then also saw pollutions of many kind, water pollution, soil pollution, and also degradation of water table, groundwater table, especially seen around the green revolution belt of Haryana, Punjab, UP, etc. So therefore, we understand that this was not a very successful model and it needs a revamp, it needs a paradigm shift, and the savior comes in the form of paradigm shift called Green Revolution 2.2. which yes takes care of the agricultural productivity just like the Green Revolution 1.2, but it also augments this productivity with sustainability. So the components of Green Revolution 2.2 includes production, agricultural production in lines of ecological principles, which means that you will be generating resources without harming the ecology or environment. You can use organic farming in this case, you can use precision agriculture, and we can use permacultures in this case. So therefore, agroforestries, mixed cropping, intercropping, all of these things can be used in order to perform agricultural practices in line with the ecological principles. Then the next component is climate resilient agriculture, because climate change is real. And we know that especially the tropical countries are the ones who are most vulnerable to these climate change events. Therefore, in order to build sustainable agriculture, one that can be relied upon today and also in future, we need to bring climate resilient interventions, which means developing certain seeds which are resilient to some of the events like droughts, or floods or heat waves, which are most commonly observed all across the world right now. So climate resilient agriculture is also need of the hour. Next, we need to transform ourselves from food security, ensuring just mere food security, to nutritional security. That is, by creating such food which is good in nutrition as well. An example of this could be golden rice, which has been augmented with vitamin A. So therefore, with the help of beta carotene. So nutritional security, which means we need to have more nutritional content in the existing plants or in the plants that we are about to raise. Then we need to take care, or we need to take the use of modern technology as well. Modern technologies like genetically modified crops, like precision agriculture, using digital infrastructure, using radio sensing, using Internet of Things. All of this can be again harnessed if we want to ensure that there is huge amount of agricultural productivity, because we know that food is required in huge amount because population is also increasing. But at the same time, the conservation of environment is also taken care of. The sustainability of these agricultural practices is also taken care of. Why? Because in the agriculture, in the Green Revolution 1.2, you can clearly observe that though these practices were there, they rather made farmers debt ridden. And this was one of the biggest reasons that these particular things are not very much sustainable. So it causes farmers losses, and losses to the economy also in the broader scale, in the longer run. So you can also analyze this infographic. We have got marginalized land, therefore we cannot do a lot of modernization of agriculture, we cannot install a lot of machineries. This is also the biggest employer. Agriculture sector is the biggest employer, yet the least contributor in the GDP of the country, which means that the efficiency, the productivity of agriculture is not very good. Next, income growth of farmers has also become standstill. We are exploring the viability of doubling the farmer income, but the current scenario is not going that way. Then it is also debt ridden, and then also we are also falling behind in many cases. Our agricultural productivity is decreasing day by day, essentially meaning that we need to have more sustainable practices in place. Now, other than this, what else makes us feel the need of Green Revolution 2.0 right now? And this has been explored across two editorials covered in Indian Express. So, the need of Green Revolution 2.0 underlies in the fact that climate change is real. And climate change can have adverse impacts on the agriculture and therefore also on the food security. Why? Because, see, the Indian agriculture, especially the agriculture of tropical countries, it is highly driven by monsoon. And monsoonal vagaries are enhanced. The change in the climatic patterns, monsoonal patterns, their unpredictability is rather enhanced by the climate change. We have already observed the El Nino year happened last year, and many of the heat waves are also happening, which eventually makes the monsoon very, very less reliable for our agriculture these days. And this is not just a concern for India, but for all the tropical countries. That is the first thing. The second thing is we already have a lot of droughts happening because a lot part of our land is not even rain fed. So then what about it? And then we are already growing water intensive crops like rice and wheat and sugarcane. So then the droughts are happening, water tables are going on. Eventually we are seeing that not only the amount of food that we get out of the crops is decreasing, but the quality of the crops is also decreasing, the nutritional content is also decreasing. And what will happen with this? This will further lessen up the food security of the nations, and this will exacerbate the hunger scenario that is going on right now, which is again a grave concern for us. So all of these concerns are interconnected to each other. Therefore, we need to enhance our strategies of agriculture. We need to have better paradigm shift in order to address the climate change, which will address the agricultural productivity, which will address the issue of hungers in the society. Then ensuring the food security, as I have already told you, it has also been reported by a report of FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, which said that in order to compensate with the demands of the growing population or the growth that will be done by 2050, we need about 70% more augmentation in the total agricultural production we have right now. So in order to create this much amount of food, we definitely need more agricultural productivity, because the land is also shrinking. They are getting degraded. So therefore, in order to ensure food security, we need to take care of our agricultures. Then we need to promote the sustainability, because the existing practices we have seen, we can use obviously fertilizers and chemicals, etc., but they will dry up the soil in longer run. And therefore what we need is sustainable practices like zero budget natural farming, or using up mulching practices, using up more natural interventions. Then we also need to adapt the technological interventions. Why is the need for this? You'll be able to understand this with the help of this chart. This is published in the editorial here. It can be seen that back in 1991, where we got a GDP of 5.1%, our agricultural growth rate was up to 2.4%. Then in 2001, we actually created a strategy in the name of Rainbow Revolution, and we actually targeted that annual growth should be of 4% for the agriculture. Now, if you observe this graph, has this 4% target ever been achieved? No, not even till yet, which means that even if our economic growth is growing exponentially, in fact rather high, then even it is not corresponding to the similar agricultural growth which is employing largest amount of population of India. This is grave concern. Why is this happening? Because our agriculture areas are not productive. So in order to enhance the productivity, we need to have more modern adoption of technologies. So adopting technology is also ensured by the Green Revolution 2.0. Now, we also need to move one step beyond Green Revolution if we really want to perform sustainable development all across the globe. The reason for this is taking care. The Green Revolution 2.0 still takes care of limited crops like rice, wheat, pulses, oilseeds, etc. It doesn't take care of the entire food spectrum. Food spectrum also includes oilseeds, it also includes fisheries, it includes horticulture, etc. So an integration is required where we integrate all these yellow revolution, orange revolution, red revolution, pink revolution, green revolution, blue revolution, all of them together. And this is known as rainbow revolution. So the need of the hour would be to pursue a rainbow revolution. This has been recommended by M.S. Swaminathan himself, that India further needs to have rainbow revolution. Next is we need to work on eliminating the regional disparity going ahead, and this is also not covered duly in the Green Revolution 2.0. The rainbow revolution ensures that the regions, especially the rain-fed regions which are more prone to poverty and underproductivity, they should be prioritized more with the help of policies, with the help of subsidies that are provided, so that they come in par and they become more climate resilient. So regional disparity needs to be encountered in order to make our growth and inclusive growth and equitable growth. Next is providing insurance protection to all the crops. So currently, India provides it with the help of Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. We all know about this. Particularly, about 50 crops are covered in this, but we have got huge biodiversity, huge genetic diversity. The need of the hour is to promote insurance protection for all the crops so that the farmer feels remunerative to grow these crops. Next is to ensure the market availability. So even if the farmer is growing crop but doesn't find the market, he will not feel lucrative to raise this particular crop. So therefore what we need is to remove the movement restrictions by building government godowns, by building cold chain storage. So all of this will help by building a national infrastructure of market. Let's say we have got ENAM with us. So all of this will help us to enhance the market availability and basically link the food surplus areas with the food deficit or the food drought areas. And this will help us to take care of the nutritional and food security as well. And last but not the least, we need to actualize our idea of growing the farmer income by at least 4%. 4% of an annual rate, because right now it can be seen that farmer income is not growing. It has become rather standstill. So therefore, finally, to conclude it all, in order to become a Viksit Bharat, what we need to become? We need to become an inclusive Bharat as well. And the need of the hour is not just Green Revolution 2.0, but convincingly so, it is Rainbow Revolution. And then coming to the next article here, the text reads that Russia's invasion has impaired scientists' ability to collect the climate data. So whatever geopolitical tensions are taking place around the world, they are having implications also on the research abilities that especially we are doing in the Arctic region. So therefore, we have to make an analysis on the challenges faced by Arctic research and what is the Arctic governance working right now, what are the loopholes and how can we fix that. Now this is important again from two parts of the syllabus. We have got environment and conservation because Arctic needs conservation. Then GS2 syllabus, grouping agreements affecting India's interest, and multilateral agreement because it has got multiple agreements of that sort as well. Exploring the Arctic region would first of all require us to explore the Arctic Circle, explore the geographical location. As you know, what is Arctic Circle? This is an imaginary line of 66.5 degrees north of equator. As you can see, this blue dotted line, and this encompasses the Arctic Circle. But if you talk about the Arctic region, this is not limited and restricted to this Arctic Circle. It goes well beyond this. It goes to some of the jurisdictions, some of the nations, and then it includes some parts of North America, it includes part of Europe, it includes part of Asia, overall having jurisdiction of about 8 countries. So this is the Arctic region, which you can see marked in the red line. All of this is essentially the Arctic region. Arctic region is very, very important because first of all, it is very fragile. And how do you remember Arctic Ocean? Arctic Ocean is world's smallest and also the shallowest ocean that we have, which is primarily covered by ice sheets. And this is also having a lot of marginal seas. Now, the sequence of these marginal seas from west to east would become very important from prelims examination, also because Arctic is in news. So please be mindful of it. Do have a reading of the same. Now, we will talk about Arctic's role in global climate. Why? Because there's a growing concerns for research in the Arctic, and there is growing research expeditions taken up by even the Arctic states and the non-Arctic states as well. So why are we performing research over there? Because Arctic is very important for both climate point of view and ocean point of view. Talking about the climate, see, it is composed of a lot of ice sheet, and therefore this is also taking care of the total radiation balance, the heat budget of the earth, because it is having a very high albedo. Albedo is the effect or the ability of any surface to reflect back the radiation, reflect back the sunlight, because it is full of ice and therefore it has got very high albedo. So it helps the earth to cool down. If the Arctic melt takes place, then what happens? It will have rapid melting of the ice, rapid decrease of the albedo, and eventually it will lead to exacerbated global warming. That's a huge concern. Now, when we have high albedo, we know that the concern is global warming. And do you know that there's a term called Arctic amplification? Arctic amplification means that whenever global warming happens, it happens and it is felt more by the Arctic region as compared to rest part of the world, because it has got a very strong positive feedback effect. So it saves you from radiation as long as you have got enough amount of ice cover. But the moment that ice cover starts melting, it builds a very strong positive feedback, which means it will further start depleting all the other gases. All the other ice sheets, how does this happen? So let's say we have got glaciers in the Iceland. Alright, and beneath this is basically a permafrost. Permafrost is huge extensive sheet of ice which is covered beneath it, a huge source of hydrocarbons. So hydrocarbons or organic matter is basically trapped in this permafrost. What happens when global warming happens? This ice sheet above it starts melting. It starts going away. As a result of this permafrost will also start thawing away. This permafrost is not alone. It is composed of very potent greenhouse gas, which is methane. The moment methanes come out, it accentuates the total global warming experienced by this region. Therefore, more warming happens over here as compared to any other part of the world because of this permafrost. So it has got a very, very strong positive feedback effect. Next, it obviously causes shrinking of Arctic ice, which will eventually do what? Raise the total overall sea levels. When the sea level rise will happen, it will see the drowning of many coastal cities, which is also a grave concern right now. So we need to understand all these theories by essentially reading the atmosphere and the interaction of the Arctic with the other parts of the world. So therefore, in order to do that, we need to perform good research. Why is it of special concern to India? Because India is exploring the prospect of having any linkage of Indian monsoon with the Arctic. So for that, researches are going on. So for studying about the unpredictability of monsoons, we have to read the Arctic now. Again, there is interconnection with the Himalayas. Himalayas, which are considered as the third pole of the world, can also show similar patterns of melting as can already be observed in the Arctic region. So if you study Arctic well, you will be able to predict what is going to happen with Himalayas. So therefore, for India, from monsoon point of view and Himalaya point of view, it's very important to read about Arctic. So therefore, India is also very active in pursuing researches over here. Now, talking about Arctic governance, who takes care of this fragile region? The issue with Arctic is that unlike Antarctica has got a unified treaty. It has got Antarctica treaty, but Arctic has not got any treaty as such because of the jurisdictional issues, because there are multiple countries surrounding it and each of them claims their own jurisdiction, and as a result there is no unified consensus formed yet. But we have got one forum in which all the countries come together and talk over table. But this is not the treaty. This is the Arctic Council. Arctic Council, which was established in 1996 via Ottawa Declaration. It comprises of all the 8 Arctic members. These 8 Arctic members are Canada, USA, mind you, this is very important. USA, Canada. We have got Denmark, because Denmark is owning Greenland. We have got Iceland. Then we have got Norway, Sweden, Finland. Then we have got Russia. So all these 8 member nations from Arctic Council along with some of the other members. So these are some associations made up of indigenous communities living in the Arctic region. So all these associations are also made permanent participants. As you can see, these are some of the associations which are comprising of the indigenous people, so that they can also have a proper say in the Arctic governance. This is the first thing regarding Arctic governance we have. The second one is the Barents Euro-Arctic Council. So this takes care of the entire Barents Sea. Please look into the Barents Sea. Barents Sea is located over here. And because it has got its area over such a vast spans, therefore it also covers 2 continents, the European continent and the Asian continent. So which are the members of Barents Euro-Arctic Council? It is all these members of Arctic Council except for Canada and USA. So please remember who are the members of Barents Euro-Arctic Council. Now there is a polar code. So for pursuing shipping in the Arctic Ocean, you have to follow a specific code other than the UN clause mechanisms. This is known as the polar code, which is made by International Maritime Organization, which has to be followed up so that you do not cause a lot of pollution and traffic in the Arctic region. So these are some of the governing bodies. And what about India? India takes huge interest in Arctic. India has observed up to 13 expeditions in the Arctic region. India also surprisingly holds an observer status in the Arctic Council. It was accorded this status in the year 2013. So are we observer state or not? Yes, we are. We are among the 13 observer states that Arctic has, or this Arctic Council has. Then India also has its own Arctic policy, which was launched in the year 2022 in the name of India and the Arctic. You can read ahead of it. Then India is also signatory to the Svalbard Treaty. Now Svalbard Treaty was signed in 1920, which gave the sovereignty of Svalbard Island to Norway, and India recognizes the sovereignty of Norway, so India is a signatory to it. Then India has set up a lot of research stations over there. The important name over here is Himadri, which was set up in Norway only in the year 2008. Do you also remember about Bharti and Maitri? Where are they set up? So both of them are set up not in the Arctic but in the Antarctica. Dakshin Ganga was also over there, but Dakshin Ganga has been decommissioned. So Bharti and Maitri are working in Antarctica, and Himadri is there plotted in Arctic area. Then we've also got an observation of the space and the climate and the atmosphere, and this is the IND-ARC, again set up in Svalbard Island, which is belonging to whom? Norway. So basically we have stationed a lot of observatories in the Norway only, and that is why we also recognize the Svalbard Treaty. So this is about Indian efforts and interventions in Arctic governance. Now, what are the challenges faced by the research and the governance? So as you can see from this particular article, it is Russia's invasion which is doing so. They are making it more difficult to pursue civilian researchers over there. Why is it happening? Because of the growing militarization and security concerns that are prevailing in the Arctic region. What is happening? NATO performs a lot of military exercises in the Arctic region. Then it is not just NATO. Ever since the Russian and Ukraine war has happened, Russia has been deploying a lot of people on the checkposts that are created in the Arctic region. So they are doing military deployment over the Arctic region, and this is causing militarization of this region. Therefore, it also threatens the civilian use of the same. That is first reason. Second, Arctic has not been universally recognized as a global common. How we recognize the other oceans and how we recognize the Antarctica? Why? Because there is clear jurisdiction claimed by each and every state, and there is complex sovereignty issue. As you can see from this diagram, even if we have got this red line region claimed as the Arctic region, you can still see this striped line that is claimed by Canada as a part of its own Arctic region. So therefore, there is complex jurisdictional going on, and therefore we do not have till now we have not struck any unified treaty for Arctic, unlike Antarctica. We can also see the Chinese ambitions going to Arctic as well, especially with the opening up of the North Sea route. They're also trying to form a polar silk route over there. So commercialization, militarization are the concerns that are going on in the Arctic region. The reason is because as the ice is going down, there is more viability of exploring resources that are good for hydrocarbons, for future fuels, and especially some of the other minerals as well. And all of these minerals can make any country very, very rich, and therefore countries are claiming their lands. Countries are trying to fight over Arctic now. Next is the extending exclusive economic zone. Why is this happening? Because of course there is global warming, there's melting of ice. So the countries are expanding their exclusive economic zones, essentially meaning trying to usurp more region on the Arctic area. Therefore, is it a global common? No. It cannot be considered it. Yes, there's no consensus on it being a global common yet. Now, there is also fragmentation of the governance mechanism. We see there is some Barents Council, then there is some Arctic Council. So there are rather fragmented governance models. They are not coming in convergence. So what is the need of the hour? How do we improve Arctic research and governance? How do we take care of all the stakeholders? By removing this fragmentation and improving the convergence, improving the collaboration, and improving the cooperation between them, so that we can design a treaty which is finally helpful for all the stakeholders, be it the Arctic members or the non-Arctic members, because Arctic has got implications across all the parts of the world, and I hope we appreciate that fact. So therefore, what we need is balance, protection of the Arctic environment along with proper utilization of the resources, because we also need resources and that is acceptable, but we need to balance it out with proper protection. Then we need a comprehensive framework which takes care of all the stakeholders, and then we need collaboration to develop the capital, to develop the technology, to develop the human resources. And in fact, Indian policy, the Indian Arctic policy has included all these provisions as well. So we believe that India should become a lead and should take care or should take a lead on the global front to call for a consensus-based approach, consensus-based policy framework for the governance of Arctic all across the world. So this is all about second discussion. Now we will read about a very important milestone that has been reached by India 100 years back. We are going to talk about the Vaikom Satyagraha because it has completed 1 century. So what was Vaikom Satyagraha? Vaikom Satyagraha, as you can see, is a non-violent agitation which lasted for about 600 days. It talked about removal of untouchability and discriminatory practices against the lower castes. In which region? In the region of Travancore, and specifically in a temple town of Travancore which is named as Vaikom. So this particular event took place, the Satyagraha started under the leadership of T.K. Madhavan on March 30th, 1924. And this is in fact first among the temple entry movements in India. Currently you've been witnessing the Sabrimala temple issue. So it has been a very, very long issue in the history of India. So the temple entry movement, it was one among the first. The other movements, if you talk about it, in 1927, there was a Mehed Satyagraha, which was by B.R. Ambedkar. Then in 1931, there was a Guru Vayur Satyagraha, and this was led by K. Kelappan, who is also known as the Keralan Gandhi. So these are some of the untouchability movements which were led by our Indian leaders. But a pioneer among them is the Vaikom Satyagraha. This is therefore very important for the examination also because it is completing 100 years. Now, as you can see, the nature is driven by the non-cooperation movement that happened before it in 1920s, led by Gandhiji. So similar principle will be followed over here. This is a non-violent agitation which is taking place at the temple town Vaikom of the Travancore region, princely state at that time. What was the reason? Reason was to secure the entry to temples and the public roads for lower caste. So what used to happen? It was a very severe discrimination that was going on between the upper caste and the lower caste. So the upper caste considered them so much untouchable, they didn't even allow them the access of roads that were leading to temple. The case in point here is the Mahadev temple over there, and they were not allowed to access those roads as well. The lower caste, the Avarnas, they were Izhavas and Pulayas. So they were forbidden because they were considered as polluting. Of course, in order to demand for their human right, they agitated for the same. The leaders of this revolt, the true leader, the one who initiated this was T.K. Madhavan. Please remember this name. It was also supported by K. Kelappan and Kesava Menon. It also got support of some of the supreme leaders at that time, which were Periyar, Rajagopalachari, also Mahatma Gandhi. He was not the direct leader, but he was also one of the most famous leaders at that time who supported Vaikom Satyagraha. What was the fate of the revolt? We'll quickly analyze this. So, upon this huge public agitation, which was rather non-violent, the Maharaja of Travancore made a temple entry proclamation in 1936. So it's not happening immediately, it's happening roughly about 12 years later. So in that temple entry proclamation, he opened the gates for the roads, the access of roads and the temples for the lower caste, therefore ending or removing the age-old ban of the entry of marginalized caste into the temples. But was it a full success? No, it had limitations because only partial removal of this ban was done. The 4 roads were contested for the access. Among them, only 3 were opened and 1 was still closed. And still some of the castes were not allowed to move on those roads or move to the temple. So while it was successful, but we can also call it partially successful. It also ended very precariously with having differences between the vision of the leader. There was a different vision of Gandhiji for this and a different vision of Madhavan on this. So therefore, this also led to diversion and eventually evaporating out of the entire movement. But despite these shortcomings, this is the one which showcased effectiveness of the Satyagraha because it reached some good results. And also it brought national attention about the topics of untouchability and discrimination for the first time ever through a local movement. So therefore, this is a very progressive milestone. Now can we talk about the next topic, which is the GI tag. So this is in news because in a very big feat, India has achieved a record 60 traditional products across the country which have got the GI tags. So it's not as if we have got only 60 GI tags. It's about we preserving about 60 traditional products, which means that we are in right path to preserving our rich culture and tradition. So talking about the GI tags, first of all, what are these tags? These are certain signs or certain tags which are given onto certain products which are affiliated to their particular geographical location for their authenticity, for their quality recognition, etc. This will also increase their marketability, their demand in the markets, and also this will get better incomes to the people who are creating these products. So this is very important topic because of late UPSC has been asking a lot of questions. In fact, I saw about 5 to 6 questions overall, haven't included all of them. But these are the questions directly coming from the GI tag topic. And they have been asked in the UPSC exam. So while India has over 500 GI products right now, we cannot remember all of them, but what is suggested from our side is that you at least read down the GI tags that have been accorded recently. Some of them I will be teaching you here. So talking about the GI tag, why do we recognize these products which are particularly attributed to the geographical locations? The reason for this is their preservation because of the rural employment, rural growth, because generally these traditions are preserved in the rural areas, and also because they form a part of intellectual property rights which are intrinsically protected by the TRIPS agreement of WTO. Is India signatory to TRIPS agreement? Of course. And therefore, we have created a legislation of our own which takes care of the registration and the protection of these GI tags. This is the GI Tag Act of 1999. Also, in the Article 1 Clause 2 and Article 10 of Paris Convention, we will also find certain provisions calling for the protection and preservation of geographical indications. So, all of this gives effect to the governance made on GI tags and the growing importance of GI recognition all across the world. In fact, if you talk about the global distribution, country with the highest amount of GI tags accorded to the product is Germany. Germany leads, and India, which has about more than 480 GI tags till now, has actually got a rank of 14th in terms of the total GI tags. And if you talk within India, then which state leads? So the most amount of GI tags have been accorded to Tamil Nadu, and after that Uttar Pradesh. More than 50 have been accorded to each of them. In India, we have got about 500 GI products, and out of this, the handicrafts holds the highest weightage, and then comes the agricultural product, which also indicates to us that it is not just the handicrafts or the traditional products that are getting GI tag, but also the agricultural products that are created in India, which are peculiar to a particular geographical location. Some of them I'll be teaching you. So these have been covered in the Hindu article covered today. So they are from Assam. We have got many terracotta, metika and metal crafts. Along with some of the textile, there is bihu dhol, there is dokona, there is iris silk, there is gamsa, there is chiffon, thorka, all of these are textiles. But what I felt the most important ones have been is the japi, the bamboo headgear of rural Assam. Then there is also Banaras Thandai from Uttar Pradesh, and then there are other things as well, but Banaras Shehnai is also important. Telangana Lak Bangles. You can be asked, Lak Bangles are GI tag from Telangana. Then in Tripura, you have got Pachra Rignai and Matabari Peda. From Meghalaya, we have got Garo textiles similar to coming from Garo Hills. Then we have got Lirnai pottery and we have got Chubitchi. So Chubitchi is important. In West Bengal, you have got Darjeeling tea. Do you also know which is the first product to be GI tagged in India? It is this Darjeeling tea, which was accorded status of GI tag in the year 2004 and 5. This is a very important fact for us. Now, do you also know that states also get accorded joint GI tag? So, this statement can be asked that one state, only one state can be accorded GI state. That statement can be very easily negated because joint GI tag products are also there. For example, we have got Monsoon, Malabar, Robusta coffee, we have got Arabica coffee. They are GI tagged not for Karnataka and Kerala individually, but for both of them jointly. Especially, we have got green cardamom, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, both of them. Then we have got Varli painting. Varli painting is from so many states. Then similarly, you can see Fulkari, not just from Punjab, but from Haryana and Rajasthan as well. So there are multiple joint GI tag products as well, which you can see from this list very well. So do you know which is the highest civilian honor being accorded by the Indian government? This is the Bharat Ratna. And we are reading this because of the context of Lal Krishna Advani being awarded as Bharat Ratna by the president yesterday. National awards have started emerging in the prelims examination, and therefore we have to be mindful of any award that the government is given. So India's highest civilian honor started in 1954. Who is eligible for getting these honors? So before or with this 1954 rule, it was said that people who are doing well in the fields of science, in the fields of art, and in the field of literature, in the field of public services, only they are allowed and eligible to have this particular honor. But since 2011 rule amendment, it made it open for all the people across all the nationalities, across all the dimensions. So any field of human endeavor can be appreciated or can be rewarded with the Bharat Ratna. Can it be awarded after the death? So again, by 1952 rules, it was not allowed. But again, in the very next year, an amendment was made in 1955, after which it started being awarded even posthumously. In fact, Lal Bahadur Shastri was the first person to be awarded it posthumously. Is it only for the Indian nationals, Indian citizens? No, it is for any person. In fact, it is also for the naturalized citizens. For example, Mother Teresa, for example, Khan Abdur Ghaffar Khan. They have also achieved and they have also been celebrated with Bharat Ratna. Talking about its selection process, of course, it is given by President of India, but by the recommendation of Prime Minister. Ordinarily and typically, he recommends only 3 names per year. But as you can see, in this particular year, he has recommended 5 names. M.S. Swaminathan, P.V. Narasimha Rao, Lal Krishna Advani, Karpuri Thakur and Charan Singh. Please remember these names because they are important for state PSC point of view. Then, now, what do they receive when they are getting the Bharat Ratna? Are they getting any monetary benefits? No, they only get a sanad, a certificate which is duly signed by the President of India along with a medallion. How does this medallion looks? It looks something like this, where on one front Bharat Ratna is written and on the other front Satyamev Jayate is written. Satyamev Jayate has been taken up from Mundagopanishad. In the mock test yesterday, there was a question asked, Yatha Dharmo Tatha Jayo. Where has this Sanskrit expert been taken from? Is it from any Upanishad or any Ved or Mahabharata or Ramayana? Kindly tell it in the comment section. Now, is there any prohibitions for the recipients of Bharat Ratna? Can they put up the name of Bharat Ratna in their name, in their nameplate, in their dashboards? They cannot. Why? Because this is again in conflictory to the fundamental right, which says that there is abolition of titles under Article 18. So under Article 18, Section 1, recipients are prohibited from using Bharat Ratna in their names, either in the prefix form or suffix form. Then, who creates these Bharat Ratna or any such medallions like Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, Padma Shri, etc.? All of them are minted by the Alipur Mint of Kolkata. So please remember this body as well. Now, if you talk about some of the best known Bharat Ratnas, there are many, but then we have got the first three. The first three are C. Rajagopalachari, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, and Dr. C.V. Raman. They have been accorded Bharat Ratna, the first Bharat Ratna. As I've already told you, typically 3 people are accorded in 1 year. So therefore, these 3 names you have to remember. So this is about Bharat Ratna. Can you also name a tall figure of the history who has surprisingly not been awarded Bharat Ratna yet? Kindly tell it in the comment section again. Now, coming to a very interesting topic which we have recently included for your learning for aiding your prelims preparation for upcoming exam. This is the Prelims Snippet, in which we'll be covering some of the topics from prelims point of view. The following topics are cardamom cultivation in India. Why are we reading this? Because agriculture, the suitability of the agricultural crops, the growing condition, the geographical distribution has been a very important part in UPSC prelims topic. Next, India's nuclear energy position, because as the world is trying to transition towards a cleaner fuel, nuclear energy is a very important topic for us. Next, nuclear disaster. This is in light of the Fukushima wastewater discharge, which has been in news of late. Then we'll be reading about this disputed island of Kachativu, which is a dispute between India and Sri Lanka. Starting with the cardamom cultivation. What is cardamom? It is known as elaichi, also known as the queen of spices. Before understanding the geographical distribution, please understand that India has got 2 types of cardamom variety. One is the large cardamom and the second one is the small cardamom. Point to be noted over here is that large cardamoms are found prominently in the eastern Himalayas. Though we generally associate cardamoms with Western Ghat, but the larger varieties or the large cardamom are found in eastern Himalayas. Typically in the Darjeeling hills of West Bengal, in Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. In fact, the small state of Sikkim is the largest producer of large cardamom. Second, you talk about the second species of small cardamom. These are the one which bring most of the medicinal and the other properties in the food. So the small cardamoms are endemic and they are typically found in the Western Ghats. They are typically found in Karnataka, in Kerala and in Tamil Nadu, specifically in the Cardamom Hills. If you talk about the location of it, Cardamom Hills are located in the south. They are in south of the Anamalai Hills and also south of Nilgiri Hills. So please remember the order of geographical distribution. Then, if you talk about which is the largest producer of cardamom in India, this is obviously Kerala, in particularly the Idukki district. Now, if you talk about the growth conditions of cardamom, please remember that it grows in moist conditions. So generally, typically it grows in the monsoonal forest of or the evergreen forest of your Western Ghats. Then, of course, they need elevation. So they thrive in elevated areas of up to 150 to 300 meters. They also require average rainfall. So average rainfall can also be somewhere of about an average of 200 centimeters. Then they require loamy soil. They require loamy and acidic soil. This is also an important condition. Then if you would like to enhance the productivity of the cardamom cultivation, you need intervention of potassium. Potassium is induced into the fields in order to enrich the production. Now, coming to India's nuclear energy capacity, how is India performing yet and what is the promises India holds? So, first of all, nuclear energy, as you already know, is a zero emission kind of renewable energy which doesn't produce any polluting gas or doesn't produce any greenhouse gases as well. Currently, India has got 23 nuclear power plants operated and 10 are under construction right now. If you talk about the total power generated out of these 23, it's actually not very great. It's just about 75 gigawatts. And 75 gigawatts has to be tripled up. This potential, this power generation has to be tripled by the year 2030, and this is the target which has been set by India. Now, about 7.5 gigawatt is what we are generating, but how much of it are we utilizing for electricity generation? We are utilizing a very meager amount, just about 3.1%, which is less than any country having nuclear power capacity that they are generating electricity from. So therefore, we have a long way to go. In fact, government has overarching aims over here. So government has promised that about 25% of the total electricity energy would be coming from the nuclear energy by the year 2050. So these are the government targets right now, and this is the current scenario of India. If you're talking about the total nuclear power plants, we've got 23 operational right now. What was the first nuclear power plant of India? This was a Tarapur atomic power plant installed in Maharashtra, and which is the first fast breeder reactor of India. This is the Kalapakkam nuclear power plant of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has got two nuclear power plants. One is the Kalapakkam, second is the Kudankulam, which also saw the attack from a malware. All these nuclear power plants are also critical infrastructures of India. So this was all about nuclear energy capacity. COP28 also happened. So there was a tripling declaration. So tripling declaration among about 23 countries, and they came together to say that we will be tripling up our nuclear energy generation by 2030. India has also got the same aim. But have we signed this declaration? No, India is not signatory to the tripling declaration of the COP28. Next, nuclear disasters of the world. We are reading this because of the Fukushima Daiichi power plant water discharge. So what has happened in 2011, the Fukushima plant of Japan saw a meltdown because of the earthquake and the tsunamis that happened over there. So as you can see, it is located in the Honshu Island of Japan, somewhere here. So it got the meltdown. Of course, the entire system collapsed, but then we were left with some of the heavy waters. So this heavy water, this cooling water needed to be adjusted somewhere. Of course, the government doesn't have enough space right now. So therefore, they are planning along with International Agency for Atomic Energy. So they are planning that they will be discharging this coolant water into the sea. Of course, this will attract criticism because this will be having certain radioactive elements, especially tritium. Tritium is an isotope of hydrogen. It is radioactive in nature, so it can cause pollution, it can cause contamination in the food, which will also cause in the aquatic system, which will also cause contamination in food, will have larger health problems. So therefore, it is attracting criticism right now. This is not the only disaster which happened. One of the first nuclear disaster that world saw was a meltdown of the Kishtim power plant located in the then Soviet Union or the current Russia. Then we got the 3 Mile Island accident of 1979 which happened in USA. Now please remember that you can be made to map such disasters with their location. The very infamous Chernobyl disaster, a movie has been also made on the same. So this happened in Ukraine, and it happened because of the power surge which collapsed the core reactor, causing many explosions and causing eventual meltdown of the Chernobyl disaster. Another thing which is important from prelims point of view, which I can remember, is the arrangement of the islands of Japan. So Japan is broadly divided into 4 island group. It starts from Kyushu Island. This is the Kyushu Island. This is the Shikoku Island. This longest one, the largest one, is the Honshu Island. This is where the Tokyo is situated. Fukushima has been planted. And the northern one, which is the Hokkaido Island. So kindly remember the ascending and descending orders as well. Now, this is the last topic, which is the Kachativu Island. So Kachativu primarily is an uninhabited island, which is primarily used by the fishermen of both Sri Lanka and India. So it was in dispute back then, but then what happened in 1974, an agreement was struck by the Indira Gandhi government, and this was the Indo-Sri Lanka Maritime Agreement, under which this territory of India was ceded to Sri Lanka. Where is it located? It is located to the north of Rameshwaram Island of India and south to the Jaffna Island of Sri Lanka. It is located in the Park Strait, which is responsible for separating or basically connecting the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean. And this agreement, this secession of the island territory, is now a call of contempt by the current government. So this is about the Kachativu Island. And this is all about the discussion, today's current affair discussion. I hope you have liked it. All the very best for your preparation. Till we meet again.